and inform Malawians what their president has been doing for the past 2 weeks and what his official engagements will be like in the next 14 days. I want to say what the 16th President of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln, said, and I quote, "Let the people know the facts, and the country will be safe." That's the end of the quote. These briefings aim to keep Malawians informed of what their leader is doing. So let us treat this opportunity with the seriousness that it deserves to match the high expectations that Malawians have. At this juncture, allow me to invite Mr. Sean Kampondeni, the Director of Communications, to give us the presidential diary. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Press Secretary, and good morning to members of the press here present. Welcome back to Kamuzu Palace. A warm welcome to Malawians everywhere from Sanja to Chitipa. Thank you for joining us. It is my distinguished honor once again today to give you some updates. I'd like to give you 3 updates as matters are rising. The first is a UN General Assembly update. The President participated in the UN General Assembly for much of last week, and so I'd like to give you an update on some of the events he participated in and why he participated in those. And then I will give you an update from the President's desk in terms of his administrative duties, or what the Press Secretary has referred to as the diary, engagements the President is having on behalf of the Malawian people and in service to their needs. And then third, we will give you a developmental update that showcases 2 of the development projects His Excellency and his administration are in the course of executing in one of the districts in the country. And so without further ado, let me start with the UN General Assembly update. The President participated in at least 10 events over the course of the UN General Assembly week. The UN General Assembly General Debate began on September the 21st and is being run through the end of the month, as well as side events that are taking place on the sidelines of the general debate. And so the President has participated in a number of these events and activities, and has had a very fruitful engagement at the UN, even if it was virtual. He has been keen to push the elements of his agenda that he feels are critical for multilateral fora like the United Nations, because there are some elements of the President's agenda. Just as a reminder, the President had stated his agenda as focusing on 3 priorities: job creation, wealth creation, and food security. And so with regard to operationalizing and pushing for these agenda items, some of those things are done unilaterally by Malawi because it has a government that has the mandate of the Malawian people to deliver on these things. But some of these things are also pushed in bilateral relations between Malawi and other countries, and then there are some that require multilateral stakeholders like the United Nations, SADC, African Union. So the President selected very carefully which events at the UN General Assembly he was going to attend. And so he has been very active and busy over this last week. You make sure that Malawi's development partners and multilateral stakeholders are fully vested in aligning themselves to the agenda of the administration in the three areas that I mentioned, pursuant to the President's State of the Nation address on May the 12th, 2021, before the House of Parliament. So a list of the UN General Assembly events the President participated in here. He participated in a high-level discussion on the Conference of Parties 26. This is an event that is in preparation for COP26, which is happening in Glasgow in November. We had already announced that the President is very keen to address issues of climate financing towards issues of climate degradation, climate mitigation, adaptation, things related to climate change. And so there was a high-level discussion that took place. This was not open to all countries. This was a closed-door session with select heads of state. It was convened by the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres himself, as well as co-chaired by Prime Minister Boris Johnson in his capacity as the current president of the UN Security Council. So the two of them selected the key heads of state that needed to be brought together in order to talk in camera and discuss issues to do with climate change and what progress needs to be made before COP26 in Glasgow in various parts of the world if the issues of temperatures around the world and the goal of reaching zero emissions all over the world by the year 2040 is going to be reached. So in their consideration, the Secretary General of the UN and Prime Minister Boris Johnson felt that His Excellency Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera needed to be part of that closed-door discussion. And so they invited him, and the President attended, and the President addressed that forum in that regard. The President also participated, secondly, in a high-level summit on SDGs. There is an Agenda 2030 related to SDGs. As you know, the United Nations and all the member states have 17 Sustainable Development Goals that are to be pursued in various parts of the world. And the President addressed that summit, and both of those events happened on Monday, the 20th. The President, on the 21st of September, which was Tuesday, participated in receiving the annual prize, which the African America Institute awards to a country for achievements in various areas. And for this year's honor, the Africa America Institute, AAI, selected Malawi as the recipient of this annual award in recognition of the Malawian people's resilience in the face of challenges to the democratic institutions of the last 2 years, and in recognition of Malawi's contribution to the consolidation of democracy around the world. Freedom House, for example, had already given an award to Malawi, or rather a recognition. Malawi is the only country in the world, Freedom House said, the only country in the world in which democracy grew stronger during the pandemic. The only country in the world. Everywhere else on earth, democracy either was weakened during the pandemic or it remained the same. Malawi is the only place where Freedom House said democracy was stronger. So That recognition has been extended by the Africa America Institute, and His Excellency was asked to receive this award on behalf of the Malawian people and to address the audience of distinguished guests from around the world that were participating in a special gala that was hosted by AAI for that purpose. So that was event number 3. Event number 4 was the UN General Assembly 20th anniversary Durban Declaration event. This has to do with issues of racial relations around the world, and the President was asked to deliver an address to that summit, which the President did. Event number 5 was the Global COVID Summit, which was hosted by the United States government at the White House. And His Excellency the President was given a special invitation to participate and to give his thoughts on what countries can do together to end the pandemic for good over the course of the next few months. And so the President shared his thoughts on what he thinks is working in the fight against the pandemic and what he thinks is not working and what can be done different. That also was an event he participated in on that Wednesday. That same Wednesday, the President gave his main address to the UN General Assembly, and he did that, I believe it was in the night of that Wednesday, which Malawi time. And we thank media houses that replayed that, because at the time that the President's time slot was coming around for him to deliver that address, it was after 1 a.m. Here in Malawi. But in New York, it was between 7 and 10 p.m. On that Wednesday night. And the President gave his address. He addressed what he called 4 crises, global crises that the world is facing and which he believes cannot be solved in isolation. Countries have to work together. And so he wanted to name these 4 crises. I think the first one he mentioned was the climate change crisis. Is something he believes cannot be solved by one country. All countries have to do their bit. The second one is the COVID-19 crisis. And the third one was the issue to do with UN reforms. He believes that there are critical reforms that need to be addressed at the United Nations itself. And the fourth was the crisis on Sustainable Development Goals. He believes that the world as a whole is off track in terms of its pursuit of Sustainable Development Goals around the world. So he gave his thoughts on those 4 crises and his prescriptions for what needs to be done across the board to address those issues. That was Wednesday. On Thursday, the President participated in a food system summit. You might recall that several weeks back, the President actually hosted a pre-UN food system summit for African heads of state, and various heads of state from around the continent convened with the President at his invitation to talk about what needs to happen with food systems on the continent in order to ensure that Africa is a continent that feeds itself but also grows enough food to feed the world. So that's something the President did prior to the UN, and then at the UN he participated in the Food Systems Summit addressing the same. So he did that on that Thursday the 23rd as another UN event he participated in. On Friday, the President addressed the Energy Summit, the United Nations Energy Summit for heads of state and government, where he talked about how it is that Malawi is one of 8 countries that is a global champion on clean energy. It may be that maybe many Malawians do not know this, but this is the case. Malawi had a goal of replacing charcoal-fired mbaulas with clean stoves. And so far, at least 2 million clean stoves have already been distributed across the country, and Malawi is considered a leader in the world in terms of the pursuit of SDG 7, which deals with issues of clean energy for all by the year 2030. So Malawi was named by the UN as one of 8 countries that's a global champion for this, and so the President addressed the Energy Summit in his capacity as head of state of Malawi as a global champion for SDG 7. So that was a UN event that he participated in on Friday. And then this week, the President is expected to address the UN Summit on nuclear weapons elimination. And he has a few thoughts he would like to share with the global community on the pursuit of a nuclear-free world. So, in a nutshell, those are the events. As you can imagine, the President was fully engaged in the UN, even though he was not there physically. That does not mean that he has not been fully vested in pursuing administrative matters locally here in the country and on the ground. And I just want to update you on some of the engagements he was continuing to have while fully immersed in these UN events. Some of you recall that on Monday morning, the President was returning from Mangochi, where he had gone to attend the Silver Jubilee celebration of Archbishop Msusa, President of the Episcopal Conference of Malawi, and the President was delighted to be on the ground with the people there. The President enjoys being with Malawians when he can, and so he was able to do that on that occasion. Something I want to highlight from his itinerary on Tuesday was his engagement with the Executive Secretary of SADC. As you recall, the President is the chair of SADC, and he has a secretariat that's not based in Malawi, and so the Executive Secretary, who is a gentleman from Botswana, came over, His Excellency Elias Magosi, and the two of them met so that they could share their vision of pushing economic integration agenda for the SADC region over the course of the next 12 months that Malawi has the chairship of SADC. So they met in the afternoon of that day. The President that afternoon also met with the Reserve Bank governor so that the President could be briefed on some of the measures being taken on financial policy as the President continues to manage the economy in these difficult times. On Wednesday, I mentioned that the President had 3 engagements with the UN, so he focused on those on that day. But on Thursday, the President traveled to Blanta, and while he was there, he held an audience with Special Envoy from the Democratic Republic of Congo, who is also Minister of State and Foreign Affairs there, His Excellency Ambassador Jean-Lin Ngandu Ilunga, and he traveled from the DRC, and they met at Sanjika Palace for that engagement. And on Friday, the President closed out his week by going further south of the country to the district of Nsanje, where he inspected road, rail, bridge that are under construction there. Here at the State House Brief, we had given you some images and footage to show you the progress that was being made there several weeks ago, and the President went to inspect that work himself. And then on Saturday, 2 days ago, the President was a guest of honor at the Catholic University, which was having its 19th congregation, and so the President was asked to address the graduating students there, which he did. And then he went to church on Sunday and then made his return back to Lilongwe on Sunday, which was yesterday. But after the graduation ceremony on Saturday, the president also inspected some roadworks being undertaken in the city of Blantyre, places in Chilobwe, Mount Pleasant, and so he did that on that day. Now this week, the president is, as we speak, back in his office, and today he's going to meet with the Minister of Information and officials from the ICT Association of Malawi, because tomorrow the president is going to be presiding over the ICT Association of Malawi's event at the Bingu International Convention Center, where they will be discussing issues related to ICT and the president's agenda for digitalization of governance, which is one of the accelerators the president named in his State of the Nation address on May the 12th. And then later in the afternoon tomorrow is when he will address that nuclear weapons elimination summit at the UN. And so those are the engagements that I can highlight for you today. And if you have any questions related to those, you can ask those to the press secretary, and he will gladly take your questions. But let me finish off by sharing some good news for the people of Tiolo. And we are grateful for His Excellency, Dr. Lazarus MacArthur Chakwera's diligence in bringing development that does not look at region or district or tribe. And today we get to share some good news with the people of Tiolo, who are witnessing the continuing works and progress of the same on the district council offices, multi-story building that is going up there that will benefit the people greatly in terms of governance, as well as the Tiolo Stadium. And so kani mene ndio kondweletsa ndetu kuonetsani mmene ntchito yokwendera nkhani yabwino yothandiza anthu auko kuboma la Tiolo, kwa Kabayi, kumlando wa Nkodzo, kumakwasa, kwa Teniasi, kunsuwazi, satemwa, mwalaphanda. Anthu akumeneko ndi anthu osangalala kwambiri chifukwa cha chitukuko chimene a president akuwabweretsera. Ndiye ndikupemphani kuti muonere nawo video yomwe takukonzerani kuti tipange appreciate ntchito yomwe kugwirika zikomo.
Ili lero ndi pa Tiolo boma, pano pa Tiolo boma pakuchitika zitukuko zosiyana-siyana. China mwa icho chitukuko chachikulu kwambiri ndi kumangidwa kwa Tiolo District Council Office Complex, imene ndi yapamwamba kwambiri. Izi zikuchitika pansi pa ulamuliro wa Dr. Lazarus MacArthur Chakwera, president wa dziko lino.
Zonadi kuno tukumanga office imene tikumayichulanga Tiolo District Complex, imene muzalowe ma office ala onse amene aboma amagwira kuno ku Tiolo. Panopo ntchito ya ili nkati kupitirira, imene mukuyioneramo ndi floor number yakumapeto. Building imeneyi ikhani ma floor atatu, kuphatikiza ground floor ndote ndi ma floor 4.
Anthu akuno poyambirana ndi nkhawa, tinangoti tinali ndi nkhawa malinga ndi kusintha kwa boma. Timaona ngati kuti chitukuko sichipitirira, koma ndikubwera kwa president athu Chakwera taona kuti boma layikaponso ndalama zowonjezera kuti chitukuko chimalizike. Ndimene chikuyenera chitukuko pano ndi asimikizira anthu kumuzimu boma la Tiolo kuti chitukuko chimalizika kupyolera kwa president wathu Chakwera.
Chitukuko chimenechi chitithandiza kwambiri chifukwa poyamba kunali chibuilding chakalekale mene mukuchioneramu chinamangidwa 1900. Ndiye kubwera kwa project chitukuko chimenechi chitithandiza kwambiri chifukwa chonena kuti tipindulaso ifeyo ngati ma business ngati mmuzi mwathu muno, komanso ku Tiolo kwathu kuno kukhala kukongola kwambiri.
Ntchito imeneyi ya kumanga kwa office complex ya nyuwani kuno ku Tiolo yapindulako ndithu ndi anthu ambiri. mmene imayambidwa tinayamba ndi anthu 120. Mu 120 mmenemu contractor anakwanitsa kulembako azimayi 30 ndipo amuna analipo 90. Ntchito imeneyi tikhoza kuyenera kuti yapitirira pakati, ndekuti tikuyembekezeka mu August 2022 ndikumeneno office imeneyi idzathe.
Lero Dr. Lazarus Chakwera yemwe ndi president wa dziko lino akukwaniritsa malonjezo ake otumikira mtundu wa Malawi posatengera zigawo komanso ndale. Kuno kumene tili ndi mboma la Tcholo, ndipo pano pamene ndayima ndi pamene pakumangidwa Tcholo Stadium. Amalawi mukumbukira bwino lomwe President Lazarus Chakwera adalonjeza mtundu wa Malawi kuti adzatumikira Malawi posatengera zigawo, mtundu komanso ndale. Kotero kuno ku Tcholo akumanga stadium yapamwamba. Monga mene mukuonera ntchito yomanga stadium pano pa Tcholo ili mkati.
Ntchito yomanga ground panopo ili pamwamba kwambiri. Mmene mukuonera ground ili panopo, ma open terrace njawa mukuwaonawa concrete yayikidwa. Pa ground mmene mukuonera apa udzu ndi wabiriwira uli apawo. Mbali ina mukuona uko ndi kumene kuli kumene kuzakhale VIP mmene mukuoneramo. Mpanda ndi mmeneso mukuona wathakale. Modolesera ma ticket mmene anthu azalowera ndi mmeneso mukuonamo. Panopo ntchito imene ili pasogolo kwambiri.
Monga mene mukuyonera ntchito ikuyendera pano pa stadium, ntchito ikuyenda bwino. Ntchito ikatha kuno itipindulira achinyamata ngakhalenso khanso kuno maka khanso lino izitolera ndalama kupyolera pa stadium pamenepo. Komanso achinyamata alembedwa ntchito pamalo pamene posamalira ngati magadi ndi ena otero. Ntchito zina zosiyanasiyana anyamata kuno akhala kuti ndi chochita.
Kusintha kwa boma koja kunapangisa kuti makontrakta akhale ndi chikayiko kuti peza ntchito anapeza mu boma licha litapita licha ndanali ndi chikayiko. Koma atabwera bwana Chakwera president anawalimbikisa makontrakta onse kuti gwirani ntchito ife tikulipirani. Pano ndikunena pano makontrakta ali busy ndipo ali ndi chikhulupiriro kuti no boma la Chakwera likuwalipira. Mutha kuona mmene zikuonekera pa ground ipa nipandamu komanso ndi anthu mmene akugwirirapo. Panopo kontrakta ali busy akutisimikizira kuti ground imene mukulioneramo pomafika chaka cha mawa likhala litatha. Chifama open terrace imene mwaoneramo atha, ukumpanda watha, chasala apa ndicho kuti uko mbali mukuiona uku kunali manyumba prison awiri amene kuti tufate wagumule ma open terrace yo afike kumene koko.
Ine nimati ndi pemphe anthu akutcholo tendi supporteni boma la tonse alliance imene president waje ni Lazarus Chakwera. Tendi tonse tipereke support chifukwa boma ili ndi chidwi likuoneseratu kuti ifuna kuti Tcholo ino ikhale kutukuka. Zitukuko zimene zinayambika poyambapo zimene zinayima boma ili lifuna kumaliza.
Ife ngati day construction timakhulupirira kuti ntchito imene tikugwira ikupindulira anthu adera lomwelo. Kotero kuti talemba anthu ntchito ozungulira dera lino ochuluka oposera 200.
Lero lino anthu akuno ku Tcholo ati ndoyamika kwambiri President Lazarus Chakwera kunena kuti wapatsa zitukuko, wapanikiza nazo zitukuko. Stadium ndi zina zoterozo zikumangidwa muno mboma la Tcholo pansi pa ulamuliro wa Dr. Lazarus Makafe Chakwera.
Zosangalatsa komanso zopititsa dziko patsogolo. Panopa ndi apemphe a press secretary a president Mr. Anthony Kasunda kuti abwere ayankhe mafunso ano. Zikomo kwambiri.
Thank you, Sean. Colleagues, we have heard the presidential dialogue. Now we have an opportunity to ask questions on behalf of Malawians out there.
Thank you. My name is Kingsley Jasi from Rainbow TV. The first question will be on the video that we just watched. There's some development of a stadium, and just like in other districts, we see similar projects. Now the question is, we have the National Stadium, BNS, which is not in good shape. The national team can't even play there because some facilities are not up to standard. And this has been a problem, I think, for some time, that facility has not been maintained properly, but a lot of money was spent to construct that. In fact, it was a loan. Now people ask, why is that facility not being properly maintained? What is the problem? Is the State House taking interest to ensure that maybe a public facility like that one is properly run and it's functioning pursuant to what the purpose was there for? That's the first question. The second question is, I think in the updates we were told on the issue of COVID-19, and I think even the President was making some appeals to attract some external support, issues of vaccines, but also how COVID-19 has affected the economy to the extent that we need some debt relief. But then when you see what's happening on the ground, even when the measures to contain the spread are being imposed, the behavior of the politicians is contrasting that. I think starting from the President and the ministers, we saw them addressing rallies. And one wonders, why would that start from the politicians who are supposed to be exemplary in this case? What is the State House saying on that?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
For now, I will ask those two questions.
Thank you very much. Will you allow me to take the two? Then we'll move to the next set of questions. The issue of the stadium. I think we agree with me that the government policy and the first thing that government would do is to make sure that we have infrastructure. And we have the National Stadium, as you have put it, and there is a ministry responsible for that structure, and I think they're doing everything possible to put back the Bingu International Stadium into use. It has taken a long time for the situation to reach where it is today, and definitely it has to take time as well to put it back to the standards, especially the standards set by FIFA. So be assured that everything is being done to put that stadium back to use. You referred that to what we saw on TV, what is happening in Cholo. I don't think it is right to stop providing infrastructure to other parts of the country because one stadium is not being used as it is supposed to. We believe people of Cholo deserve that sports facility. So on that one, be assured that the government, through the Ministry of Sports, are doing everything possible to put back Bingu International Stadium into use. The issue of COVID preventive measures. You are also aware that the Presidential Task Force announced during their previous address to the media that people can hold meetings. So I wouldn't want to blame politicians that they are doing something contrary, because it was an advice from the task force that meetings can take place, provided, I think that's an underlining statement, provided all the preventive measures are followed. We should also not be quick to push the blame on other people when it comes to issues to do with life. It is each and every Malawian's responsibility to take preventive measures. COVID is real. Even if the Ministry of Health, through the task force, have eased the restrictions, we should always, as individuals, take extra care. Ningonena poso nchichewa chifukwa mene tikulankhulira pano tikulankhula kwa mtundu wonse wa Malawi, makamaka pa nkhani imene ya matenda a COVID kapena kuti mliri wa COVID. Funso ndiloti kodi chifukwa chani anthu andale mwina pena kumoneka kuti akukhotetsa kupanga misonkhano. Ndimanena kuti a task force amene akuyang'anira za mliri umenewo analengeza masiku apitawa kuti anthu akhoza kusonkhana. Zimenezi sizikutanthauza kuti matendawa achoka. Matendawa alipo, ndipo ndikupempha kuti tisanayang'ane kwambiri za anthu andale, tiye ntione aliyense payekha kuti ndi gawo lanji imene tikutenga kuti tidziteteze ife komanso titeteze anzathu amene timakhala nawo. Ndiye nkofunika kuti ngakhale anena kuti tiyeni misonkhano tithe kupanga motsatira ndondomeko zonse zimene zinayikidwa pamene pali anthu ambiri, koma aliyense akhale ndi udindo ngati Malawi, ngati munthu, kuti phukusi la moyo sakusungira ndi wina. Ndilekere pamenepo.
Thank you. I'll ask my questions in Chichewa, ndifusa Chichewa. Ndinanga ni Matthews Kasanda, Work Times. Ndine mafusa awiri. Loyamba tamba pompa noti mtsogole wa dziko lino wachita nawo msonkhano umene waunga kudzera pa makina a internet. Amalawi mina nkufuna kudziwa kuti kodi ndi ndalama zingati zimene dziko lino lapulumutsa, chifukwa malingana zimayina kuti mwina mtsogole wa dziko lino apite ndi anthu ena ndi enanso akuluakulu ena aboma kuwaperekeza kuti akakhale nawo pamkumano umenewo, komano sadapite ndalama zochuluka motani ndipo tikoza zigwiritsidwa ntchito motani. Funso langa lachiwiri, nthawi ya mvula kulima kukuyandikira, koma tikunena pano ogulitsa fertilizer makampani mtengo wa 27,000 akuukana. Kodi boma tinene kuti mupereka ntchito imene yogula fertilizer ku Adimac ndi SFRFN, mwina mtsogole wa dziko lino sakudziwa kuti fertilizer zimatenga fupi mwina amati odzitsatira bwinobwino kuti zimatenga fupi mwina 2 months kuti afike mdziko muno, nthawi yolima ikuyandikira. State House, what's your stand on this? Thank you.
Zikomo kwambiri anzathu aku Times, mwafusa mafuso abwino kwambiri okuti Malawi amve. Funso loyamba, kodi ndalama zingati zimene a president kusapita kwawo kwa ku America kukapanga nawo msonkhano wa United Nations zimene aseva. Inu mukhoza kukumbukira masiku apitawa a director a communications anali msonkhano ngati omwewu ku Blantyre, kumeneko anapereka ndithu tsatane wa mmene ngati dziko titapulumutsire ndalama chifukwa chosapita ku msonkhano umenewo. Iwo anafotokoza momveka bwino, ndiye ndimaona ngati kuti cholinga cha msonkhano uno tizichikwaniritsa, tisamabwereze zimene tanena lero tizabwerezenso sabata lamawa kuti tizipereka mpata kuti auze Malawi zinthu zatsopano. Koma ndingonena kuti ndalama zimene zapulumutsidwa, zimene zikanagwiritsidwa ntchito pa ulendo wopita ku msonkhano umenewo, ndi ndalama zimene zimatumikira mdziko lino, chifukwa sikuti panali chithumba cha ndalama chimene chinali kuno ku State House kuti President amayembeza kuti akati akupita ku America ndi kuti anyamula kugwiritsa ntchito. Ayi, zimakhala kuti ndi nkhani ya budget yomweja imene imapangidwa ku parliament. Ndiye chifukwa kuti President sanagwiritse ntchito ndalama zimenezi, tiyembekeze kuti zilowa m'madera amene zikatumikire Amalawi. Tikukamba nkhani ya mankhwala mzipatala, pompano tikukamba nkhani ya fetereza, tikukamba nkhani ya zitukuko zosiyanasiyana zimene zikuchitika mdziko muno, zimene tamvapo kuti ngakhale anthu akuthyolo apanikizidwa nazo, anthu akumsanje apanikizidwa nazo zitukuko zimene zikufunika ndalama. Ndiye ngati ndalama zina zapulumuka kuti ulendo umene usunapitidwe, ndiye kuti ndalama zipezeka kuti zapita madera ngati amenewo. So Amalawi ndithu tatsimikizire kuti ndalama zimene sizinagwiritsidwe ntchito pa ulendo umenewu zigwira ntchito zowatumikira. Nkhani ya mtengo wa fetereza, ndifuna nditsimikizire Amalawi kuti nkhani ya chakudya, kukhala ndi chakudya mu dziko chokwanira, ndi nkhani ya pamtima pa President athu Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera ndi boma lawo, chifukwa iwo amazindikira kuti pamene Malawi muno muli chakudya chokwanira, ndiye kuti mitengo ya zinthu singakwere kwambiri, chifukwa inflation imasunthidwa kwambiri chifukwa cha chakudya. Ndiye ngati Malawi ali ndi chakudya chokwanira, ndiye kuti muzaona kuti mitengo ya zinthu singakwere kwambiri. Ndiye chifukwa chimenechi President ali mbali ya alimi kuti mtengo wa fetereza chisakhale chipinjo kwambiri pa alimi athu mdziko muno. Ndiye ndatsimikizire Amalawi kuti boma motsogozedwa ndi Dr. Lazarus McCarthy Chakwera aonetsetsa ndithu kuti mtengo wa fetereza chaka chino ukhale umene upangitse kuti dziko lino lipitirire kukhala ndi chakudya chokwanira, monga mmene tinachitira mchaka chathachi. Ulimi wa chaka chatha dziko lino lapeza chakudya chokwanira kudutsira mwina pamene dziko limafuna. Zomwezonso President akunena kuti zichitikenso chaka chino pomafika chaka chamawa. Chachikulu tiyeni tipempherere kuti mvula ibwerenso mwaubwino, chifukwa fetereza ndi yali apo. Ngati kulibe mvula yabwino, mwina sitingakwaniritse masomphenya amene ngati dziko tikufuna. Ndiye ndikutsimikizireni kuti President aonetsetsa kuti kudutsa mu unduna wa zamalimidwe alimi asalandire chipsinjo. Koma pofuna kudziwa zambiri zokhudzana ndi kodi atapereke fetereza ndani, kodi izi tipanga bwanji, ndikupempheni kuti mupite ku unduna wa zaulimi, chifukwa President iwo ndi amene anauza pachizungu amati instruct or direct kuti azilankhula ndi Amalawi pafupi monga mwenye anapangira sabata yapitayo. Anali ndi msonkhano watu lankhani pamodzi ndi anduna ona zofalitsa nkhani kufotokoza tsatanetsatane wamene programu ya mbewu ndi zina za ulimi zotsika mtengo itayendere chaka chino. Ndiye ndikupempheni kuti mmene mwabvera kwa ine pano m'malo mwa president mwafunsenso akunduna wa zamalimidwe kuti akufotokozere mmene zikuyendera. Zikomo kwambiri.
Zikomo kwambiri. Dzina langa ndine Love Makomo kuchokera ku Ufulu FM. Pali chitsogozo kuchokera ku nduna wa zaulimi kuti ADMAC ikweze mtengo wa chimanga pa kilo imodzi. Timafuna tidziwe kuti mwina position ya president pa nkhani imene ndi yotani, komanso is there any reconsideration from the president? Thank you very much.
Zikomo kwambiri. Ndikupempha mukukamba za mtengo wa chimanga kuti anthu akagule ku ADMAC. Ndikupempha kuti nkhani imeneyo ndisachedwepo kwambiri chifukwa anzathu ADMAC analengeza ngakhalenso anduna ofalitsa nkhani za boma anakambapo ndithu kwambiri pa nkhani imeneyi. Chimene ndinganene nchakuti a president akudziwa za kusintha kwa mitengo imeneyi, ndipo ADMAC afotokoza mwatsatanetsatane zifukwa zimene mtengo wa chimanga wasinthira, chifukwa pali zambiri zimene iwo amayenera kupanga kuti chimanga chija chizipezeka m'misika. Ndiye anaona kuti pofuna kulumikiza zimene iwo akuyikamo komanso kuti aonetsetse kuti chimanga chija chafikira kufupi ndi kumene anthu ali, panali poyenera kuti kamtengoka kakwereko pang'ono kuti chimangacho chizipezeka. Chifukwa nthawi zina zikhoza kutheka kuti chabwino tiyeni mofuna kungosangalatsana tiyike mwina mtengo wapasi kwambiri koma zinthu zija zosapezeka. Nthawi zina ndi bwino kuti pazikhala compromise kuti chinthu chipezeke. Ndikupempha kuti Amalawi ambiri akhoza kukhala osangalala kuti zinthu zija zapezeka, kusiyana kuti azimva nyimbo yakuti chimanga ndi chochipa kapena chimanga chili mtengo wakuti kwa ADMAC koma chimanga chija chosapezeka. Ndiye ndikupempha kuti ADMAC afotokoza bwinobwino chifukwa chimene kamtengo kangosunthira pang'ono, cholinga chake chakuti chimanga chikhale chikupezeka kufupi ndi kumene kuli anthu.
Suzy Ochitete from Nation Publications Limited. Congratulations on your appointment, Anthony.
Thank you very much.
I have two questions. The first one is on when the president attended the opening of Golden Peacock Hotel in Blantyre some months ago. He directed the SPC and relevant ministries to look into his security and protocol, that when he's traveling, motorists are not held for more than 15 minutes to pave way for his motorcade. We have observed that there is no change. Just yesterday, when the president was traveling from Blantyre to Lilongwe, in some points, people had to wait for more than 30 minutes. Additionally, we still continue to see police officers lined up in the road, for hours, just to, when the president is passing through the roads. Why is the president not living up to his word, or why is there no change after the presidential order? Secondly, the president, then in opposition, was quite critical when it came to government expenditure, public expenditure. It was quite critical of presidential travel then. Today is president. He has become a regular traveler. Does this become justifiable because it is him? And lastly, two of his advisors have been dismissed, so is the minister, because they are suspects in criminal activities. does the president do due diligence when he's making these appointments? Or has he taken time to once again look at his team so that he's surrounded by only those that personify his virtues of rule of law and zero tolerance to corruption? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Suzo, for that set of questions. I'll be quick because we are running out of time. You asked about the issue of the convoy. Road users waiting for more than 30 minutes, which you say it's against what the president promised. I would like to respond by saying the issue of presidential motorcade is a security matter. And I wouldn't want to stand here and start discussing about the security of the president. However, you raise a very legitimate issue of waiting time for that motorcade to pass. And as you have rightly put it, it was His Excellency, the President himself, who first raised that issue. And indeed, his directive couldn't have been more clear, because he doesn't want people to be inconvenienced when he's traveling. So, the president expects the security agencies, because they do regular reviews of the presidential movement, to look into the waiting time so that Malawians are not needlessly inconvenienced on the road. That's the president's desire. So that has not changed. I hope I'm clear on that one. And the same with what you ask, police lining up along the road which the president is going to use. The same is, this is a security matter. And let us leave it to the security agencies to see how best they can provide maximum security to the president and also meet the expectations of the president. The president travels. Suzo and all Malawians, you agree with me that the president has not been involved in a lot of travels. The president has been in office for now about 15 months, and he has spent more than 80% of that period working in the office. However, you definitely agree that the president should go out, appreciate all the development projects that are taking place. He should meet Malawians, hear them, listen, so that when he is in the office, he can make decisions that have been influenced by what Malawians want. There are also other stakeholders doing a lot of things. It's not only government providing development to people. There are also other stakeholders doing a lot for Malawians. He can only show gratitude by going out there and appreciate what these stakeholders are doing. So be assured, the president has not departed from his policy. But you also do not expect the president to always be in the office, not going out to appreciate the development that is happening. Let me quickly tackle the issue of due diligence. I don't want to dwell much on the aides that have been fired, as you put it. because some of them, the issues are in court, so we do not want to start discussing court matters here. Suffice to say, the president took very serious collective measures. Before you start working, or before an appointment, there is very serious vetting. You don't come here and start working for the president without going through that process. But that does not mean you're not prone to make mistakes or an error. That's why the president was quick to take collective measures. Even if you go to a church setup, that's why there's continuous repentance. We are just human beings. The difference is, unlike in the past, where we saw an advisor involved in a procurement scandal, instead of disciplining that advisor, like the way the president has done, he was promoted to another public institution. That's not Dr. Lazarus Chakwera. That's not Dr. Lazarus Chakwera. Maybe I should stop there. And thank you all for coming and very good questions. That's what we want Malawians to hear. I thank you very much.
yafikanso program ya Akili and Me. Iyi ndi program yomwe timaphunzira tonse kulikonse komwe tili uku tikusangalala.